Well, there you all are. My goodness, I am so glad to see so many people coming in. Thank you. Thank you for coming in to the six screens tonight. Well, my name's Rick Farron, and I'm here at the control panel in Massachusetts. And this is where our programs originate from. This is where we keep an eye on what's going on behind the curtains. All over the world, we have people that call in. We have a number of computer screens set up, but we have our first program tonight. It's called Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. And we have a woman, well, she's quite the gal, I'll tell you. She's from Northern California, but she's coming in tonight. Her name is Anne Marie, and she's a former Jehovah's Witness, but she has lots to talk about. We all love Anne Marie. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick. How are you doing this six screen Saturday?
Well, if I told you I was doing excellent, would you believe it, Anne Marie?
You know what? I would, because aren't we so blessed? And you have the Lord's Spirit helping you, and you know you're doing what you were called by the Lord to do. So yes, I do believe it.
Yeah, no, in fact, I don't know what it is, but every once in a while, Anne Marie, you experience it too, and I'm sure our audience does. Do you ever get like an adrenaline rush? It just all of a sudden gives you such a good feeling? Well, that's what I have today. I'm not sure why, but I have that today. I'm excited. I think it has to do with so many people leaving the Watchtower. I think there's an underlying current of happiness whenever I hear of things that are showing the Watchtower is tanking. It just does something to me. It gives me this adrenaline rush.
Well, I can understand why, because you have been saying this for as long as I have known you, and that's about 12, 13 years. And that was before a lot of stuff has been happening, but you were saying that it was going to happen, and to see it, especially I've been on Reddit, and so many people, even the ones who are still going to the meetings, are still physically in, walking the walk, talking the talk, but their brains are tired. There are so many that don't want to be there. And it just seems like the elders and the circuit overseers are coming down harder and harder and harder on these poor chemo JWs who just wish they could get away from this cult.
Well, isn't it something? That Reddit forum, they're getting close to 100,000 people that are in there, reading and posting and starting threads. That is remarkable. And it just goes to show you that site is growing exponentially. It shows you more and more people are leaving the Watchtower. That's what gets me excited too. And then the other thing that gets me excited is I see it even happening here at the six screens. I see more and more callers. We had last Saturday night, Anne Marie, we had a person call in from Norway. We had a person call in. Yeah, a person call in from, I can't remember the name of the country, but it's in Europe somewhere. It begins with an S. I'm sorry, I should have had that right handy. We usually don't hear of that country, but they called in. I'll remember it before the program's over. But people were calling in from pretty much everywhere. The UK, we had people calling in from, like I say, Norway. People were calling in from Ireland, and then all over. I couldn't believe the people calling in. It's amazing to me. So this shows you more.
I know people are calling in from Canada, Australia. I remember this lady for a while was calling in from Switzerland.
Yeah. And so, it's just amazing to me. So we're connecting in the English-speaking world. And then we have a Spanish program on here. It wasn't on tonight. It's on next week. And it's a Spanish-speaking program. And boy, that program is called Oasis. It's a Spanish ex-Jehovah's Witness. His name is Ephraim. And he is just taking off like a rocket. I was watching this week, the people that coming in, the Spanish people, they love that program. So Anne Marie, it's wonderful. We're all making a difference. You're doing a good job. You're getting out, you're reaching people. They love to hear from you. I'm going to cut you loose. I'm here if you need me. You take the program away.
Thank you so much, my brother. I want to welcome everyone in to Six Screen Saturday. Today is Saturday, December 2nd, 2023. And before we go on, I would like to give a shout out to our dear sister, Linda James of Pasta Bay. She is amazing. She has filled in for me again when I couldn't do the show. And she's just so calm, but she just keeps going every single Saturday.
Is that better now?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, no, I don't need to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, still there. Anyway, I'm on my husband's phone as long as everything's okay over there. But I want to thank our brother Rick. He gave us a really good subject matter. He's really good at one of the things he's great at is how is your life different? I mean, I know there are stresses and strains and problems being in the real world, and we have the added fun of being shunned and all those little things that go with the Watchtower shunning policy. But overall, how is your life better since you are out of Watchtower? What is one thing or two things that you can think of that you are free to do now that you weren't free to do in the Watchtower? And if anybody has a thought or a spark of a thought in that direction, I would love to hear it. Please feel free to get started. Yes, hello, my brother.
Hey, Anne-Marie, it's Stephen. First of all, welcome back to the mischief. Secondly, I have to tell you, Anne-Marie, if you were right here in front of me, I'd give you the biggest hug because I finally got my hands on a copy of that Richard Snell 30 Years of Watchtower Slave. I'm telling you, it is. Sorry?
William J. Schnell, the 30 Years of Watchtower Slave.
30 Years of Watchtower Slave, and I am enjoying that immensely, and I'm learning so much. So I just wanted to tell you thanks for constantly reminding us about that book and referencing it. And anybody that's listening, do yourself a favor and get a copy of that. You're going to learn so much more about why Watchtower does things that it does. It basically used Germany as a testing ground, as a proving ground. So anyway, thank you so much for that book. I would say, to answer your question, getting back to the program, one thing that I really enjoy is a connection with people that I never ever had in Watchtower. In fact, right at the moment I'm at the call, I just bumped into somebody that I knew, and we've just been talking for the last 20 minutes, just kind of catching up, talking about just family and all kinds of. And I wouldn't have done that as a witness. I would have only looked at this person as somebody to try to encourage to come to a meeting or to take a Bible study or something, but I would have never viewed them as a person, just as a human being. And so that's the one thing I think I noticed when I woke up, and I just felt really connected to humanity in a way I never did.
Wow, Steph, and I'm like smiling, so I'm trying to get the smile to stop so I can speak. I am so hearing you, my brother, to be able to look at another fellow human being and not see, oh, they're worldly. Oh, they're just fellowship. Oh, they're not good standing. Thank you so much for hearing that. To be able to have a connection, like or not like, drawn or not drawn, on your own, with your own heart and spirit guiding you. Isn't that incredible, Stephen?
It's incredible. And I started attending events, work-related events that I wouldn't have never attended. And I'm telling you, it's like people just see me different, and people include me on things. Everybody that goes out of town and come back, they've got something for me. It's the craziest thing. Before I came to Home Depot, my neighbor walked across the street. She had baked a bunch of stuff, I guess.
Are you there, Stephen?
Stefan, come on back on with us. Yeah, for
So
some
he
reason.
said he was. Oh,
We'll get him back on. Hold on 1 second. Somehow. There he is.
It's not me, something happened. But in any event, I'm just saying, when people respond, people just see me and treat me completely different. My neighbor walked over today and handed me a pie that she had just made, just because she made it. She was thinking of me, and and it's like those kinds of things. And not that I'm trying to get pie, but I'm just saying those kinds of things would have never happened because I wouldn't have tried to have a relationship, with just humanity, just help people as best as you can. And I've never been happier because of that. And it's just so sad to know that witnesses will never experience that as long as they're in that cult for the most part.
Stefan, I really want you to know that I appreciate your bringing up this point, and I don't recall it ever specifically being addressed, but you made me realize it's just that, like you said, people are treating you differently. And what I'm thinking of is I didn't realize that I was a snob. I was a Nazi Watchtower bitch. I really was. I didn't realize that I was an arrogant snob. I was a snob, and I'm really a nice person. But this is what Watchtower does to you. They turn you into something that you're really not. And when we're different, when you're not an asshole, sorry, Rick, people sense that. Your energy is not one of, I'm better than, you deserve to be destroyed.
Right.
You're walking bird food.
Yeah.
I'm so above you. Like that one XJW wrote a book, I'm saved, you're doomed, or whatever it was.
Right.
I'm happy you shared that, because I have noticed in the last however many years that people are so kind to me since I finally got out and started just throwing myself out there to see what would happen. I could not believe how many people
I couldn't believe it either.
Kind.
And see, and that goes to how we were lied. That goes to how we were lied to. Because Watchtower always said that the world would essentially chew you up and spit you out. And I can honestly say I have not had one negative.
You mean like Watchtower does?
Yeah. It's not the world that chews you up and spits you out. It's the Watchtower that actually does. And I want to just say one thing, Anne Marie. This is going back. I called in Mr. Farron's online. I called in late, I guess, on Saturday, and we were talking to me, I want to say JP, and the gentleman that he spoke to you about that was from Norwegia, or someplace in Europe. And all of a sudden, I think Rick dropped or something, and whoever was hosting the program, they never came back. It might have been Fran and Joe. It was Fran and Joe. It definitely was Fran and Joe. And they never came back. We just kept talking. But I don't know if he knew that something happened on Saturday night, kind of towards the end of Fran and Joe's program. It just went south. Online was still active, so we kept talking.
Well, isn't that wonderful to share? And thank you again for sharing that as well. Sometimes things happen. I always feel like
I just didn't know if it knew.
No, I wasn't well last Saturday. I had my little issues. But I appreciate your sharing that. And it's such a good example, because sometimes, somebody will lose a signal, or somebody will go off to something or whatever. But you know what? It always seems to be good.
Yep.
Like, I'm glad you're
so
on.
I'm gonna go back on mute because I'm in Home Depot and I don't want to disturb you, but I just wanted to say welcome back, we missed you, and thanks for the book. And that's my answer, just connecting to people.
Well, I thank you so much, my brother. And Stefan, you are so right. Being able to connect with people and being free to just see people and let them speak for themselves instead of having to see people through Watchtower glasses, because it distorts the view. I want to thank you as well, Stefan, for bringing up William J. Chanel's book, 30 Years a Watchtower Slave. For those of you who don't know, he worked closely with Rutherford in the early 30s, 20s, I don't know. But I know that he was like Rutherford's right-hand man, one of his key henchmen. And Rutherford sent William J. Chanel into Germany to work and practice on the very compliant, law-obedient German brothers and sisters there, because Germans are known genetically to kind of like order, respect for authority, very obedient. They go according to the rules. They're just naturally that way. I'm a quarter German, and I know I'm that way. I can't help myself. Boy, was I right for Watchtower. But anyway, he wrote a book that, and it's not that thick. It's only about a half an inch thick. But if you don't get any book, everybody says, oh, get this book, read this, go on this site. If you only do one thing, get 30 Years of Watchtower Slave. It's on Amazon. It's published in the 50s, like, I don't know, 56, 57, somewhere in there. And it is so popular. And here it was written 70, 60-something years ago, and it's still selling. You read that book, and you know everything you really need to know. You will know why Watchtower acts the way they do, why they treat their members the way they are. They are exactly like the Nazi Party. Like, that's why I call the elders the Gestapo enforcers, because that's it. It's all about them watching you, and if you step out of line or look the wrong way, you are back there getting interrogated, and you are going to be paying, maybe even shot. Who knows? Metaphorically, of course. But that's why the Watchtower is the way they are.
Yeah, that book was. I almost feel like, Anne-Marie, I wish we could do. I mean, I don't know how we do it, but I almost wish we could do like a book club. You know how you have book clubs where we do a book club where we read these kinds of works that were written by former witnesses. So like the Ray Fran, J. Schnell, David Reed. I believe he has a number of books out. I don't know who that is. I almost kind of feel like I wish we could figure out how to really do that. And then kind of discuss that we learned. I don't know how to do it. It's just.
Oh, that sounds like an idea. That sounds like an idea. You could pick one book and say, let's all get this book, and 2 weeks after we get it, we do a show, like maybe once a month. We could be focused on one book, and everybody who wants to talk about that book, talk it over with Rick. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, there you go. All right, I'm going to go on mute, and I'll probably call back, but I'll go on mute. I don't want to disturb something.
Thank you for tuning in and calling in. That's a great idea. It's like comments on what Stefan was talking about. Want to share what they thought they could do outside of what? It's a big star stick.
Yeah, hello, Anne-Marie.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Oh, just fine here. How are you doing?
Oh, thank God. I'm happy to have a phone that works. How are you doing, my brother Ken?
Well, I'm doing pretty good here, just taking it one day at a time. I better get right straight to my point. Yeah, I'm Ken from Michigan, for the people that don't know me yet. So, yeah, I just want to let you know that it's been very difficult for me and all that, because Jay doesn't have a telephone. But I called him here about a couple weeks ago, and I was trying to schedule a time, or if I can get him at least once a week, but I haven't been able to do that yet. He's holding his own, and he's still in the same place he is there in New York and so forth, but he's still around, still holding his own. His health has improved in one area, but not improving in another, so to speak. His weight has come down a lot, but he still can't walk, so I'm just going to keep hope alive and everything like that, and just hope for the best and all that. So,
you know what, Ken? I want to thank you so much, because I think about him, and I just, I worry, and I want to thank you for faithfully trying to keep apprised of how our brother is doing. I know.
Okay, you're very welcome there. And then my second reason for calling is, I know you're talking about life after Watchtower over there. Although I never was a member, the Watchtower Society did come over to my place a lot of times many years ago, and I was heavily influenced by them. And of course, I can't say that they're to blame for all of this and everything like that, but because I've been
things have happened to me in the past, but let me get to when I was with them. I got to be kind of passive with them, you know, and so forth. I try to implement a lot of their suggestions, hoping that life would improve and everything like that and so forth. And a lot of times they were right and all that. But I still had another incident happen to me that I felt I can't go into details right now, but I had another incident happen to me. I said that probably would not have happened had I not tried to implement some of their standards that much. So life away from the Watchtower was a lot better when they stopped coming around my place. And then not only that, although I never went to their church or anything like that or so forth, just because they're at my place all the time, these busybody people will look over there, they think you're one of them, you know? Yeah, every time you go by a church area, you know, up in Upper Peninsula here, especially some of these people that are, you know, totally ignorant, every time you go by a church there, you're a member of that church, you know, that's their attitude, which is not the case, of course. You and I know better, and so does everybody else calling in here. But yeah, life was a lot better after I got rid of after Watchtower Society stopped coming. And then there was an incident there with my friend, which I can't go into right now. But after that incident with him, they stopped coming altogether. So yeah, that was good. So since then, since they haven't been talking to me, silence has been golden.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Silence is golden.
Yeah, when the Watchtower Society doesn't talk to you and so forth, that type of silence is golden.
Yes. Yes, that's the way to look at it. You know, it's just amazing. I remember how you would say how you were nice to them, cordial to them.
Yeah.
And they knew they could use your bathroom, and if they needed help, you were always a very nice, kind, friendly person to them.
Yeah.
But isn't it so true that all in all, the witnesses seem to feel so entitled? Like if they know somebody's not in the Watchtower organization, but their mate is, like if a witness sister has a husband who's not in the organization and he happens to be a carpenter or a plumber or an electrician or whatever, if there is any way that they can get his help, they will definitely, oh, do you mind asking your husband this or that? Because they expect everybody to feel like it's a privilege to have them in your presence. Is that not true? Do you not remember that? Just thinking you're entitled.
Yeah, I got that impression too. And then there was a guy that told me one time, he says, the Watchtower Society, his experience was the Watchtower Society wants you to do everything for them, but they will do nothing for you in return.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, and that's just what we've been, that is so true. And all the time we've been getting calls from the 6 screens. That's exactly the theme song that's been sung by, I think, 100% of the callers, you know? Yep. And you can't do enough for them. That's another one that's been coming out and so forth. Oh, wait a minute, you know? What are you, a machine or what? Yeah, they seem to think so.
Yeah, you're not a real person, and you definitely don't deserve any consideration or understanding or compassion.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I appreciate your bringing that out. And I know you were never, you know, totally under the enslavement of the cult programming, because when you really believe in that Watchtower cult, you have no idea how truly controlled and enslaved you were until you come out and manage to deprogram. And it's no easy process.
Well, they did a lot of, they influenced me quite a bit. I try to implement some of their stuff, and I think it got me into some trouble, or well, I got out of it. So, but I got in similar circumstance. I had similar incidents happen to me in the past, but so they weren't totally to blame. But the problem is, you would think that if they had the true religion or something like that, they would be able to address those type of issues, but they didn't. You know, they just had the passive attitude. that the world was coming to an end. There's nothing you can do about it. Just sit back and do nothing and wait till the world comes to an end. No, I don't think so. And I just like telling somebody if you're going to die anyway, so just lay around as long as you can. Don't worry about nothing. Just lay around as long as you can because you're going to die anyway someday. No, I don't think so. I'm going to keep going as long as I can. When my time comes, it's going to come. I'm not going to sit around, you know, and wait for my time to come. I don't think anybody else is either, you know.
There you go, Ken.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that I've covered it just about. Can we get another caller in here? Star 6, anybody? Star 6. Let's get some calls in here.
Well, everybody will call in if they feel like it, but just to know that they can call in, Ken, and say what they have on their mind. You know, in Watchtower, I felt like every single word had to be carefully monitored and filtered before I opened my mouth. And I'm not somebody who thinks before they speak. So it was always like, make sure I don't say the wrong thing or use the wrong tone. So, hey, anybody who wants to call, we're here. And if they just want to listen, well, why not? You know, no worries.
Well, we do have some other people on the line. Go ahead. We've got some callers. Go ahead, caller.
Rick, it's David. Listen, I take offense to like what that guy was saying about, or you guys are saying about with these witnesses using you. Where I've been studying with these people. I used to have them cut my lawn. Rick, I had this brother. I went on vacation one time. The guy came to my house and cut my lawn. Didn't ask for any money. You know, I don't know. They never used me for anything. In fact, you know, my family's got a garbage company, and I was like, listen, let me take the garbage from you guys. You know, I'll bring the truck over or whatever. They wouldn't even let me do that. So I don't know why you guys are saying that they take advantage of people.
David, let me say one sentence. The difference is you are not a baptized brother. Once you are baptized, they own you. Until you are baptized, as long as there's hope for you to join them, it's called the honeymoon period.
Right, but I thought that gentleman wasn't baptized. They were just coming to his house. Hello?
I'm here. I just need to.
The gentleman that you were talking to before, he said that he wasn't a part of the church, and he said that they used to come and use his bathroom. I mean.
Well, he didn't. You don't. No, not. Oh, come on. Ken has had a lot of experience with these people. He lived near witnesses to where they were always there. He saw them as nice Christian people and always was very nice to them. Then he saw, I think something happened with somebody who he considered a friend when they started shunning him or treating him horribly, and he knew that was wrong, and they were nasty to him, and he said, you know what, I don't want anything more to do with you. In other words, he saw their true colors. If you're having a great time and you think that they're nice, that's your experience, and we all get that. But again, what is called the honeymoon period. I enjoyed it for 2.5 years, and you know what? As soon as I got baptized, the very next meeting, I could see the change. They're nice to you. They're so happy to see you. They compliment you. What can we do for you? Bring you food, take you here, invite you there. Oh, they're so nice. Honeymoon period, David.
So were you ever married?
What does that have to do with anything?
I was wondering if you went on a honeymoon. And when you got back from your honeymoon, did it all fall apart? Listen, I'm terrified that guy went through that, and I just never experienced that. So
that is the whole point right there. When somebody says, "I don't understand," recognize that you don't understand. I am telling you, metaphorically, you are in the honeymoon period. You are a prospective great brother. You're smart. You're probably good looking. You probably have a lot of life left in you, and they can use you. You will make them shine. You would be a good addition, especially since they're losing people so quickly. And they want people to think that they're so wonderful. But that's because they don't own you yet. You have no idea unless you have lived through it and seen it happen. And everybody knows that the honeymoon period is a metaphor for they're really nice until they've got you and they don't have to be nice anymore.
Well,
Can I make a statement?
I'm sorry that that gentleman went through it, but Rick, I just want to tell you thank you. I talked to Mr. Hess today, and he explained everything, and I'm actually blown away by that guy. That guy is a really good guy. So.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, David. And back to David. David is studying with the witnesses, but we made arrangements for David to also study with one of the program hosts on our Sunday program, Jay Hess. So they're going to have a study together. Thank you, David, for accepting that. I think
Thank
that's
you.
going to be good for
Good
you.
night, guys.
Yeah. Good night.
Yeah, I want to talk about the honeymoon period. There anything there?
Could I add my 2 cents there?
Go ahead.
Please go ahead. Thank you, David. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do understand what David's saying, and I don't think it's fair to just make a carpet statement that you know they'll all abuse you after. There's some really genuine brothers and sisters in the organisation, and there are some brothers and sisters in the organisation that will continue to help you and will continue to be nice to you. I mean, I've experienced that myself. So to say that all witnesses, or to infer that witnesses as a whole are going to just drop you like a hot potato when you're baptized isn't true, really. There are some people within the congregation that are nice people, and they will help you. But I think what's happening here, though, is that, and you're right as well, is that when you're baptized, then you're one of them, and as you're one of them, the expectations change. Expectations change in which the way the witnesses act to you, and the expectations change on which the new witness is supposed to be acting. I mean, it's only recently that you wouldn't. I mean, at one point until last month, you could continue to count your time when you were talking and being helpful, and that's somebody who's studying the Bible, whether you're their study overseer or not, or a study conductor or not. You could still count time with them, and so that a lot of that was involved. And but there are, like I said, there are nice people in there. There's some lovely people in there. But on the whole, as a sweeping generality, as there are a lot of brothers and sisters that once you become baptized, they do lose an awful lot of interest in you. And the longer that you're in it, then, if you're in it for 6 months or 12 months after you've been baptized, it will change. The longer it goes, the more it will change until it kind of reaches its equilibrium, and you end up being the same way. And I think that's true. They have to put on this face. In fact, I heard a YouTube video today or yesterday, and somebody would come out and they said, I'm so happy I don't have to pretend to be happy anymore. And I totally relate to that. I remember being out in the ministry, feeling sometimes I'd be pretty low, but feeling like I had to walk around with a smile on my face and be nice to everybody, because we're representing God and we're representing the organization, and we have to be, we have to make that appearance. And it is just this facade. So yes, there is a certain amount of help that people have when they start to come along. There is a minority of witnesses that are genuinely nice and will continue to help you, no matter how long you've been in the truth. But yeah, there is. But I think that the overwhelming thing is that you generally don't get attention, you don't get as much love, and you don't get as much help once you've been baptized and you've been in it for a while.
Hey, I want to mention something about the honeymoon period. Am I on?
You're on.
Yeah, it ends the first time you're in a backroom meeting, and that's no joke. And it could be for any ticky-tack thing. It could be your comment was too abrasive, which I do tend to do abrasive comments. I had one removed a few minutes ago, I noticed, off of your program, Rick, but that's all right. I understand that. I comment a lot. I got removed from YouTube for commenting twice last month. Yeah, that first backroom meeting, usually it's about something you didn't know you did,
because you weren't told that was against the rules. Because you got the 80 questions, and that's all the rules you knew existed. Unfortunately, you come to find out over the years there's like 1,000 other different rules. And so that's the end of the honeymoon period. And that's my comment. I don't have a lot to say other than that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your comment. Totally understand it. But I think we have had, many of us, I mean, literally thousands, have had pretty much the same experience. Of course, there are a lot of nice, sincere people in the witness organization. But if they're under the cult programming, and if they in any way or for any reason think that you're not stepping up and pulling your weight and faithful and loyal and obedient and respectful.
I don't think they care if you're pulling their weight. They got somebody to gossip about. Pretty much of the fuel for the theocracy is people to talk about, people to gossip about behind their back. It could be an elder, and if they find out, you're going to be in the back room meeting. But generally, it's them low-hour publishers. I mentioned this a few weeks ago. They are talking about you in the elders and servants meeting. They're talking about you pitifully. So it's a good thing that they got rid of the field service. I don't know what they're going to do for having people to talk about now. It's going to be terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, that is the point.
But see, the point is, and look, you go to any religion, they're just like other religions. They do the same thing. Someone I studied with, his wife divorced him. She became a witness. And I ran into him 20 years later. And he said, I tried all the religions. They're all the same, just like witnesses. All the gossip, the backbiting, the slandering. There is no difference. That's what I'm telling people. It's just another religion. No matter how hard they try to claim, we're the only ones, we're the best. Okay, now I'm officially done for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody wanted to comment. Who's that? My sister.
Hi, this is Apostle Babe. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Hi, Linda.
Hi. Dave, I wanted to let you know that the reason people keep telling you about the baptism benchmark is because once you're baptized, you're actually giving a verbal, legal contract with that organization in such a way that you are to answer to them when they question you on anything. And like the gentleman that was just talking, you find out a whole lot of things on a need-to-know basis. You don't know until you did something, and then you need to know. That just wasn't okay. So it's not a very, if you want to go towards having a contract with them and answering to them, just that might be something. Some people do need that in their lives. That might be helpful. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Anne Marie?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, Anne Marie, Rick Borgie, or Dick Borgie. The Bible talks about the wheat and the weeds. And the wheat would be good, loving elders, and the weeds would be those Nazi elders that just can't wait to publicly reprove you or disfellowship you or talk about you. It makes them feel important. If you're a sinner, and we all are, you better hope that you get loving elders, because if you don't, you're disfellowshipped. So it shouldn't surprise anybody at all that one person's experience can be a lot different than another person's. I've known people that have committed very serious sins and still have remained in your position as elder or servant. And I knew other people that committed just the smallest sin and got disfellowship. So it's extremely inconsistent. And overall, it's an unforgiving organization, because that's the way the governing body want it. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Well, thank you so much, Dick. I really appreciate that. I don't know, personally, I think they're pretty overall very consistent. The more that they feel they can control you, they will pick on you if one hair is a little bit longer than another hair. They don't like your suit. They don't like your shoes. They don't like your glass. Do you know that in the early 70s, when wire rim glasses were first becoming popular, brothers and sisters couldn't wear them, especially the brothers. They were called hippie glasses and you could get in trouble. So stupid. Stupid.
Yeah, I remember that. They were John Lennon glasses because he made them popular. And so if you put on little round glasses, you were like trying to be like the Beatles. Crazy.
Well, I didn't remember that, but I know John Lennon did wear them. In our area, they were just referred to as hippie glasses. But, you know, it's like your hair, your clothes, your teeth, if a woman was well endowed. I mean, no matter what you didn't do, how hard you tried or didn't, oh my God, pick. But if you're a child molester, we're just going to try to restore him to a healthy spiritual way. But walk down the street with a white, big pen in your mouth, you're going to get called to the back of the room and accused of smoking a cigarette. Remember Marilyn Marsh? They disfellowshipped her because she took a picture with her real estate jacket on over her blouse that had trellises and flowers, and her real estate office had to have their group picture taken, and it was in the newspaper, and from a certain angle that you could see her blouse. The brother said it looked like she was wearing crosses all on her blouse, and she's like, "Are you seriously kidding me?" And she tried to tell them. She said, "I'll bring it in to show you." They disfellowshipped her because of her attitude. Faithful, beautiful, sweet, loving sister. Disfellowshipped her for her attitude. I guess nowadays they call it brazen.
Yeah, I remember that was a beautiful person. A beautiful, beautiful person. She knew Rutherford. And she wasn't very impressed with him. But she was a child. She used to drive, she rode on his, she rode in one of his Cadillacs that he had on the footboard. She told a lot of stories about hip hop. But, you're disfellowshipping a person in the JW world. You can't be in a new system if you've been disfellowshipped. If you get disfellowshipped, the next day Armageddon comes. But you just can't be in it because 3 elders has decided that the ransom sacrifice of Jesus Christ wasn't enough. What a sick organization. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Wow, Dick, thank you so much. You always bring out such great comment. I didn't know that Marilyn Marsh had known Rutherford. What an arrogant sack of flesh he was. Wow. So anybody have any comment on...
Hi, Anne-Marie.
Yes, go ahead, my dear.
Hi, it's Eric. How are you doing?
Hello, Eric. I was wondering if you were going to come on. Did you have a nap today?
No, I woke up late.
Oh, okay. I guess you're okay.
Yeah.
What's on your mind, brother?
When a couple of people before us, I think David and I don't remember who else, were talking about their experiences, or that not all of the people are bad in Watchtower. I'm not saying they are, but my experience was like traumatic, and I'm from New England, and Rhode Island is the smallest state in the United States of America, and so being that it's the smallest state, I mean, you can go from one end to the other, the farthest point, and it's an hour and a half. So everybody knows everyone for the most part.
Oh, wow.
And
I didn't know that.
When something happens to you in the room, everybody knows. It's just the elders don't keep quiet. I was picked on from the moment I was a teenager. It's like the elders were on me, and I never let up. And then I got married, and it got worse. And they picked on my wife, and they picked on me, and they never stopped. I think I stopped losing count after 17 times. That's how many times I've been in the elders room, whether it's 2 elders or 3. And this is psychological warfare on a person. It's just, it beat us both up, and we both have so much like mental issues from it. And you always tell me, Eric, stop saying I'm sorry, right? You always tell me that. The reason why both Desiree and I do that, and the reason why we say I'm sorry is because we both were so brutalized from the witnesses. Even our own family members, it's like, because we were free spirits, they had to beat us into submission, and all it did was cause us heartache and pain. It didn't make us better people. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I had an elder just randomly call me and say, yeah, I heard you called your disfellowship brother. Hey, I heard that you said the CUNT word the other day. Like, oh, like I went in the rooms for calling my cousin a bad word, but she was slandering me, and it was like, it was family, it was no one's business. Yeah, it's not the nicest thing to do, but do I deserve to be ridiculed by two elders? And so my point being to all this, and then on top of what Desiree's been through, it's just, all I can say is the witnesses, including my own family, have abused us, and I don't see good in them. The only good witnesses are the ones getting out, in my experience. If you're a good person, you're going to eventually, Watchtower keeps opening up their mouth and inserting their foot, changing policies. They're eventually going to drive a lot of people away. And I hope that happens, and it's part of what I'm going to talk about tonight. But I think it's got a good subject, and I know there are good witnesses out there. There are PMOs and 10Qs, but the teenies, the longer that they're in, they're allowing this evil spirit, the governing body, to corrupt their minds. And I've watched really good people, even good elders, change, and they're not good anymore. They do Watchtower's bidding, and they don't help you. They get short with you. They 9 reinstatement letters, and we can't get in. I mean, because of our side, and I don't want to tie up your show, but I thought I would add that in, Marie.
Eric, you are never tying up my show. This is your show. Everyone who called in, everything.
I have one tonight. I need to get
Eric, stop.
Yeah.
That does not negate the importance of what you just said.
Oh, well, thank you, honey.
No, I thank you, because you are
No
so
problem.
right. I'm a free spirit. I didn't know. I thought something was wrong with me because I got picked
Right.
every
But they teach you that there is. Yeah.
Yes. And it, I literally got picked on because I was happy. When I got to the meetings, I was so happy because all I had was I couldn't talk to my worldly neighbors. I was only surrounded by children. But once I'm in the kingdom, my brothers and sisters, I'm so happy. I want to say hi to everybody and all the gossip was, she's such a dingbat. She's looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. She can't talk in a coherent sentence together because she's talking too damn much. Blah, blah, blah. Just mean. Mean. You got it too. Well, I want to say thank you for bringing it up because you're a good man and your wife is a sweetheart. And then you know what? I think the better you are as a person, the more they're going to stomp on you, and they're going to try to wipe their garbage off on you so you stink as bad as they do.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Just to conclude, my wife told me that because of her Native American blood and her intuition and the way she feels energy, that in her life, and I get that a little bit too, and I think we all do, we can all, but she gets it extreme, we can all become a mirror around people that we're around. And sometimes if we're outshining them, they don't even know why they're reacting the way they are, but they're upset or angry or agitated at you, because what they're doing is when they look at us, it's almost like metaphorically they're staring into the mirror and they're seeing the things that they don't like about themselves. And this is a major issue for the witnesses. I mean, my mother and my mother-in-law, they're still 17, 18-year-old women. They've never grown mentally. They're stunted. And that's all I wanted to say.
Well, I appreciate every word you did say. And I think what you're saying is very important. I know that in Native American, they're very in tune with spirit. That's from the spirit energy of trees, the ground, animals, butterflies, and definitely from each other. But as just a regular old white person, I am aware, and I've seen it because I've had my picture taken, of this aura that we all have. And there's a certain type of camera that actually will take a picture of you. And when you see the photograph process, you can see your aura. Everybody's energy surrounding them is totally different. And some are bright and full of love. And I call it happy. I mean, I always had happy, bright, and I can almost sense people's auras. I can't see it, but sometimes I can feel people's auras, and I can even sense when they have angels around them. And it's weird, but I can feel it. And
that means you're an empath, and so am I. I feel the same thing.
Well,
yeah, you're an empath, and that's what I am too.
And it can be really, really hard because then you don't take sides because you see everybody's side. You understand where everybody's coming from. And for me personally, if somebody tells me something, like something they experienced, something they went through, or something that even happened to somebody else and they're telling me about it, I will feel what they're feeling when they're talking about it. Or if they're talking about somebody else, I can feel what that person was feeling. And it's like, I thought everybody was like that. But I think that when you're very loving and caring and you don't judge, you're not taking sides, like I'm the kind, if I hear somebody talking about somebody else and that person isn't there to defend themselves, it really flips my switch because I think that is so freaking cowardly. Cowardly. If you have something
and in fact, I've snapped on people that have done that to my friends because the organization is so guilty of that, Anne-Marie.
There you go. Because everybody has a right to be heard and to have where they're coming from, at least heard. I always say, it's okay with me if you don't agree or don't understand or don't even care. But I do ask you just listen and consider. And, and you're an empath, and you and your wife are so delightful. And maybe because of what you said, you're very welcome, and that's an acknowledgement, not a compliment. But it's that we are so aware. It's like, I always remember Jesus saying, I have so many things yet to share with you, but you are not able to bear it at this time. Remember he said that? That is something that a lot of people don't understand, because do you notice that the people who are the least spiritual are the most anal and mean and rule breaking? They're judgmental.
Yep.
You met
Amen to that. I think someone else is trying to get through, so I'll let someone else talk. Thanks for talking to me, Anne-Marie. And I missed you last time for your last show. It's good to have you back.
Well, thank you so much, Eric. I missed you all too. Is there somebody that wanted to come on and comment?
It's just Stephen again. There was something, Anne-Marie, I wanted to tell you. This is going back to the topic, right, of something that we noticed after Watchtower, and the word would be freedom. And I had breakfast with my mom earlier, and we were talking about how my dad, and it's kind of all over the place, but my dad had allowed, over the course of time in my youth, 3 different either whole families or members of families to come and live with us because they were having whatever kinds of issue. There was one sister who was being beaten by her husband, and none of the brothers did or said anything. And my dad, who is the benign witness, insisted that if she wanted to come and stay with us, she could, and she did, and she brought her son. Then there was a second one. There was an older lady who, I don't even think that she was a witness. I think she was studying, but she needed help. And my dad said, well, bring her here, we'll take. And she stayed with us until she passed. And then there was another family that stayed with us until she got married and moved with that individual. So the point that I'm making is, my dad was unencumbered with witness philosophy and ideology, that it's not okay to bring some sister in because that's going to cause reproach on God's name and all this foolishness. And he did it, and he made such a big impact. Because if I see any of those people, that's the first thing they bring up. I remember your dad let me stay with him, and so forth and so on. And so the point that I'm making is, once we left Watchtower, we had the freedom to do things that, as a member of Watchtower, we wouldn't have been able to do. Because the gossip mill would have been going crazy. Elders would have been all in you. Well, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And it was so interesting to me because it occurred to me as we were talking about this. Nobody in the congregation did anything. They knew about it. They did nothing about it. And even the congregation, when I left as a homo, there was a sister there who ultimately wound up in a homeless shelter with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. And she wound up in a homeless shelter. The whole congregation knew. Nobody did a thing about it.
Oh, no.
And this is the kind of thing, and you're like, how do you sit there and call yourself a Christian, and you sit there and talk about love and Jesus and God, and yet when you have an opportunity to do something, you can't do it because the brother said, Watchtower said, oh, if I do that, then I'm going to bring reproach to that. So the point that I'm making is freedom. Yeah, if I want to help somebody, I can do that and not worry about any of this foolish Watchtower rules and regulations.
Well, isn't that kind of like Jesus answering the question, who is really my neighbor? And the Samaritans,
exactly like that.
They were supposed to be the arch enemy, the horrible scum of the earth. But the Samaritan was injured, had been robbed and beaten, and was injured on the side of the road. And without hesitation, one of God's people picked him up, put him off his burro, took him to a safe place, paid the guy at the inn for whatever it was, and he says, if it costs more, I'll come back and pay you. But
exactly.
It's a witness. Oh, isn't that horrible? Go ahead.
Right, and I forgot to mention the most important part of the story, Anne-Marie. My father was disfellowshipped. My father was disfellowshipped, and yet he was the only one that helped people. All your so-called brothers and sisters did nothing. Stood by, let you go in a homeless shelter and be beat by your husband and all the rest, and didn't do a thing about it. My father was the disfellowshipped one, and yet if anybody was in need, he would give the okay to help them out, including bringing them into his own house. Now, who was the Christian? Who was the Christian?
I'm sorry?
I said, who was the real Christian?
Oh, exactly. Of course, the one that was disfellowship. Now, the one thing about being disfellowship is you're free to do what your heart moves you to do.
Freedom.
I saw something on Reddit, if I may share it. Somebody commented, I wish I could find it. Somebody said something very simple, but it blew me away. Good people are moved to do good things. Evil people are moved to do evil things. But when good people are moved to do evil things, that takes religion.
Yep. Exactly right. So anyway, freedom. That's another thing that I've enjoyed, the freedom.
Freedom's the whole thing. Way before I ever came and joined the Watchtower, I was visiting my mother, who was a devout witness, and I was visiting her, and her phone rang, and it was this sister who said that another sister had called their house begging if she and her 3 children could come stay with this sister and her husband. And because her husband was an abuser, and it's horrible to live with somebody who's terrorizing you. And, my mom was like, oh, that's so sad, and the sister said, well, my husband said it was as far as he thought it was okay. But then he decided to call the elders. And the sister called back and said, I feel so bad. We told the sister that she and her kids could come over right away because her husband's going to come home from work. And he's probably going to beat her. And she said, my husband called the elders and they said, no, you can't interfere with their marriage. Right. And I was just like, wow, really? Isn't that horrible?
That's horrible. I had a friend, Anne-Marie, that I grew up with, actually a family that I knew. They probably known me since I was 3 years old. And I remember him telling me, we were probably in our 20s at that point. went to the same congregation that whole entire time. And he said to me about how angry and how much he hated his father. Now, his father was not just an elder, he was the presiding overseer or whatever it was called back in those days. And I looked at him and I said, really? And he said, yeah, he said, in my whole life, he said, every time I would ask, can I do something or can I have something or can I go a place or be a, go to a join a club at the school or whatever, it was it was days before I could get an answer back because he's got to go research a bunch of publications. Then he goes and calls this other elder who's the biggest jerk he ever met. His whole family hates him and disowned him, and ask him. And then days later, you get the answer, and it was typically always no. Very seldom was it always yes. And then I thought about in my upbringing, if I wanted something or where I go ask my dad, 9 times out of 10, unless it was really expensive, the answer was yes. And he'd give you that answer as soon as you saw him. It didn't take days, and he didn't have to consult Watchtower bound volumes and then go and call another elder and have a whole sidebar about whether you can go join a chess club or not. But that's how it is in that cult.
Most definitely, and I'm really sad that I used to be exactly like that because when I was in the organization when I was young in the 70s, I remember that was the way you did everything. This is before they stopped letting you freely go into the Kingdom Hall library. But I remember any subject, the answer was you go straight to the back room or the library was, and you look up the subject and you look it up here in this Watchtower and that article in the Awake. And that's how it was done, because if a sister would ask an older sister or this or that, well, have you done the research? And they would have the index, I don't know if you remember, but they used to have a Watchtower index and a index for the Awake. And you could it was like the concordance. You just looked up a subject and it would give you the different magazines. And that's the way you did it. I remember when I had a chance to go to a computer school way back in like 78, 79. And I was very interested. And I found out how much it cost, what the rent was. I was going to have to move. But something said, oh, you've got to do the research, And I came up with all the articles in the 70s. Of course, the articles in the 70s were all about women's lib, and women's lib is destroying the family. And, the children are neglected. And this is something that a Christian woman do. So stupid ass me, listened to the Watchtower bound volumes, didn't make the move, which I could have afforded, didn't get the education, which I could have afforded and could have made a heck of a lot of money and maybe had a brain left. Am I whining? I'm sorry.
No, Anne-Marie, I'm telling you, I have been dealing so much lately, I would say within the past 2 years, with anger at Watchtower. I mean, I have just been angry because I know damn well, excuse my English there, I know darn well that my life would be different had I not listened to the bad advice of this organization. And to see how they have just gone about face and cowardly just almost ignored all the bad advice that they have given us. And now it's, we make mistakes, we don't have to apologize. We're not inspired to God. We never said we were perfect. But the whole time I was being raised, it was like their word was law. And maybe I'm stupid because maybe I should have known this or somehow figured it out. But if you're in an environment where you were raised by witnesses and you're only allowed to associate with witnesses, you don't have a whole lot of ability to think outside of that. And I know people like that one caller who called in talking about he didn't experience what we have all experienced, which is the abuse of Watchtower and how they feel entitled to just do whatever they want to you. He didn't feel that. But for those of us that were raised in, we know exactly what this thing is all about. And I've been dealing with a lot of hate. So I totally understand how you feel.
Well, bless your heart. And it is part of the processing. I mean, here I was, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I do remember wanting very much to be a teacher. And I remember standing in the Cow Palace in San Francisco in 1969 during the district convention. It was a break. And I was talking to this sister and I was saying how much, she said, well, what are your plans when you get older? And I said, oh, I wish I could be a teacher. But I even, she goes, what are you talking about? Haven't you read The Awake? I'm like, and she shoved the awake at me, the May 22nd awake, the one where it says the youth have to face the facts. Literally face the facts. That basically there will be no time. I was 14 years old. Do you know how much money I could have coming in right now from my pension?
Exactly.
They can
we could do a whole show just on the bad advice that we live by from Watchtower. Just like you. When I sit back and think of my life, my mother is a doctor, and I was not raised by my mother. So you might hear me say, "Well, I thought your mother was a..." No, I have two. But my biological mother, she is a doctor, well established, well known. My uncle went to school for medicine, switched to computer science, graduated with that, did some amazing things. I have an uncle who, when he retired as the senior patent lawyer for Procter and Gamble, Fortune 100 company, if I remember correctly. So this was family that I could have easily just sat down with and said, "Hey, can you help me kind of, scope out my life and different things that I could have gotten involved in." But no, we listened to Watchtower, and we pay the price now. And that's what we're trying to warn people and tell people: do not get associated. And so it's heartbreaking when you get people that call and it just kind of seems like they just don't believe you, or it's just their experience. How can all of us, all over the world, all races, all ages have the same experience and people don't get it? It's heartbreaking. It's like a train wreck, and you can't take the train off the track.
Yeah. And I hear you. You know what I used to hear too, and I'm sure you heard is, well, that's not putting Jehovah first. We weren't allowed to pursue if we had a musical instrument we wanted to do. We wanted to be in a marching band. Couldn't play sports. Couldn't be a cheerleader. Couldn't play chess. A chess. Give me a break. Oh, that's a war game. It's like, oh my God. They even critique how you bullet tissue roll in. I am telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you have people who are gifted in so many things that they were never allowed to pursue and develop them because of Watchtower. I mean, I don't care if it was sports, it could have been music, it could have been literature. I mean, just whatever your artistic ability is, but you were never allowed to do. And then you have people like me. I still wrestle with who am I really? And this is another thing when you talked about what did you realize after leaving Watchtower? And I realized that because I was never allowed to do anything that you have a desire to do as a young person, you never really got to develop who you are. And that really factors into your whole life. I mean, if you don't know who you are, how are you making decisions about what's in the best interest for you if you don't even know who you are? Well, how the heck are you going to know who you are when you weren't allowed to go out and do anything? If I go to 31 flavors, but I'm never allowed to try the ice cream, I don't know what flavor I like. They got 31 flavors to choose from. Can't have any of them. And then years later, somebody says, "Oh, what's your favorite ice cream?" Well, I don't know. I wasn't allowed to, taste any of them. And that's another thing. When you leave Watchtower, you realize that you were never allowed to grow to your full potential on any level because you couldn't be you. You had to be this little mini clone of Watchtower. You had to be this Watchtower robot.
The Watchtower lays out a script, one size fits all, and you are supposed to conform and perform. You are not supposed to be allowed to develop to be the authentic human being that you were created to be. So ideally, in Watchtower cult mind, your parent is supposed to program you from birth to be obedient to the Watchtower, submissive to the Watchtower, and loyal to the Watchtower. Always defend the Watchtower, and whatever the Watchtower says, you do. And you do it until they tell you just the way they tell you to do it. And then when you get out, it's like you're like a deer in the headlights. It's like, I don't know what to do. Who am I? You don't know who the heck you are, because being a quote-unquote good person or being right was all about being in good standing. If you're not in good standing with Watchtower, you're a piece of garbage.
Yep. That's absolutely right.
I like your idea for bad advice, what bad advice did Watchtower give you that you followed, that you, however you would put it? I don't know how to be succinct. You know what? I like your idea. I like your idea. I'm going to tell Rick, let's do that if he says that's okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some doozy stories out there. I really am. I know that this brother that he doesn't live that far from me, is a little bit older than me. He was not a born in, and that's a whole nother subject. The born in versus those that come in at different ages, because people like me, as a born in, at 3 years old, you know, that's a whole different way that you're being raised. I mean, you're talking about brainwashing and cult control. You're talking from the age of 3 versus somebody that comes in at 30 years of age. That's, you know, went to school, played sports, and had girlfriends, and done everything that they wanted to do in life. Then they get married, and all of a sudden now they want to get religious. But you have, at least you have a life. You know,
those are seeming to me, just my personal experience. You know, I have a relative in my family that got to grow up, got to go to school, get a great education, you know, didn't have to fight for this or fight for that, didn't have any kind of religion shoved down their throat. And then they, as an adult, after a couple of kids and a marriage that didn't work out, all of a sudden this person gets approached by a Jehovah's Witness, and now they found the truth. And that person has been in this organization for such a long time. And I just look at this person who thinks I'm the scum of the earth. And it's like, I don't know, 25 years or 20 years or something. And it's like, really? They are the most, this person, and I'm sure this person is by far a good person, but they've turned into this smug, arrogant, better than everybody else. And I'm thinking, I lived it. I was raised in it. I was never allowed to breathe freely because of this religion. And this person thinks I'm bad because I left Jehovah. You know the whole thing. But I got to say this again. Somebody made a comment. I love Reddit because I swear the most incredible people post. This one person made a comment about this person has a JW damaged brain. And I think Watchtower brain damage. And it's true. We're gonna have to make some posters. I mean, really, we have really been robbed of so much. And then what's sad is no matter how successful you are in Watchtower, once your health starts failing and you're not able to do, I heard one elder say, we really can't stand the older sisters because they bring our numbers down because they can't do what they used to be able to do. And that's a shame. That's a shame.
I'm gonna tell you this, Marie, and I'm gonna go back on mute. There was a brother. He was the COBE or the PO or whatever it's called now, and he would say to me periodically. And this was from the last hall I attended. He would say to me periodically, "Boy," he'd say, "I know you must feel really blessed to be born into this. You know, I came in when I was in my 20s or whatever the case, maybe even 30s, and I got really, the first couple times he said it, and I was like, and I was totally, pee-me. I was totally pee-me. But even then, it still bothered me. And so I pulled him to the side one day, and I said, listen, I said, you keep saying that, and I have to tell you something. I said, that's not how I feel, and I don't know that that's how many born-ins feel. I said, because we don't get an opportunity to develop ourselves in any way. I said, you played sports. I said, you played football. You played the same position that I was good at, but I wasn't allowed to develop that. You got to play on the team. I just got to play on the weekends and pickup games. I said, and you got to do this. I said, what, did you have a girlfriend? Oh, yeah, I married my high school sweetheart. I said, okay, well, we weren't allowed to have sweethearts. There was no dating. I said, so everything that you got to do is stuff that we didn't get to do. And then after you did all that, then you became a witness. And now you're this anal retentive, person that wants to tell me what claim to be born in this. I said, I didn't feel blessed to be born in it. I said, we live under tremendous pressure. Every freaking second, are we doing something that's bringing displeasure to God? Are we setting the right example? Did we say something we shouldn't have done? All day, all night, every day. I said, no, it wasn't a blessing being born like that. And he looked at me and his eyes were big, like, I cannot believe you just said that. Man, so I'm just telling you the truth.
I can't believe he didn't hear a word you said. Obviously didn't get it, Stephen. I remember Armageddon nightmares and almost every single meeting, Thursday night and Sunday especially, being reminded that it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Always hearing descriptions about how Jehovah was going to destroy people. You know, the fireballs from heaven, our ground opening up, people trying to kill each other with their bare hands and being stabbed and shot and horrible things. And this is what we heard every single meeting. And and people who talk about hearts and flowers like Watchtower, I call it the Watchtower fantasy bubble. They want to stay in it where everything's butterflies and flowers and rose petals. Please tell me what you're smoking. I want some.
I know. And I don't know if you remember this, Anne Marie. I don't know how you were raised, but like, even if I missed a meeting, like, let's just say I just did not want to go, you know, and you should have had the right to do that, by the way. Well, guess what? You didn't go to the meeting that Thursday? Okay, no problem. Well, when that Saturday rolls around and maybe somebody says, hey, you know, after service, we're going to go to the roller skating. Oh, you're not going. You go to the Thursday. Or maybe that Saturday, you didn't go out in service because you slept late or you just didn't want to go or whatever. The friends are getting together to go to the movies. Oh, you're not going. You missed the meeting. So it was that too. It was like, not only were you damned because you couldn't develop yourself, but you had to do those things just to enjoy the few little things that you did do.
Oh God, Stephen, that is so sadly true. I remember I thought you were going to say get beat. I was just late to leave for the meeting, and I got beat for the wire cook. I was 14 years old. My mom beat the crap out of me and my brothers because we were all running late. We had to walk to the meeting, and it was just so much pressure. Nobody wanted to go, but we had to because my mother fell for the cult recruiters that pulled her into Watchtower. She never went to the meeting because she was always sick. And I couldn't leave. You know what? I never forgot that. It was 14. I swore to God, come hell or high water, I was going to leave the Watchtower. And I finally made it out when I was 15. I thought, I don't care. If she ever tries to beat me again, I'll knock her eyes out. I just swore to God I was never going to do it again. My mom's a nice person, but it's the Watchtower programming that trains the parents to be that way. But you're right. And that's mild. I've heard most of the kids got beat. We just all got beat.
Oh, we all got beat. And even if I used to feel bad for a buddy of mine, Simon, because he would always fall asleep during the meeting. It was hilarious. And his mom would reach past. I don't care how far he called himself sitting away. She would reach past everybody and hit him as hard and as loud to the point where most of the friends would jump. Like, what was that? Because he would go to sleep. And so this is the kind of foolishness that we all had to deal with. And I'll say one last thing. We talked about this. You weren't. This is one of the talks. I think you weren't here. And we were talking about there was this pioneer. There was this CO named McGee. And when he came through, this had to be in the late 70s or the 80s. But when he came through, he was always pushing pioneering. And then he was also saying, well, you got a kid, you got 2 or 3 kids, the oldest one, he doesn't want to serve Jehovah, kick him out. Kick him out. And all through the circuit, including our congregation, parents were kicking these kids out if they said they didn't want to get baptized and they didn't want to serve Jehovah, or if they got this fellowship. They were kicked out, and some of the ones that got kicked out weren't even 18 yet, so they hadn't graduated high school, kicked out of the house, and how their lives got derailed because of basically being put out with no support, hadn't even graduated high school. You have no money, no family, no support, no nothing, all because of this organization.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's incredible. It's amazing, you know. It's like the more you talk, it helps us to remember these things.
Right.
It's amazing what we've really dealt with, Stephen. All of us. I think a lot of it we just kind of pushed to the side. you know, like in a library, there's so much information in the books, but we can't read it all because it's overwhelming. But what we had to deal with mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and just the everyday feeling that you can't do this, you can't ask for that, you can't. Liz, can I tell you one thing that's absolutely as crazy can be?
Yes.
We were poor. We were poor. I mean, we were poor. I'm talking so poor, my mother found a sale on shoes at the Hudson Shoe Center in San Francisco. She got me a pair of rubber shoes for $1. And I hadn't had new shoes in years. And I literally hugged those shoes and kept with them under my bed. That's how poor we were. Well, when we got older, we were hungry. We were always hungry. We literally would, well, my brother would get food out of the garbage. I never actually dug in the garbage for food, but I do remember standing by the garbage cans asking my friends if they were waiting in line to throw their leftover food out in the garbage. I would ask for their food. I was starving. So was my other brother.
Wow.
So we were very, very hungry and very poor. This one winter before Thanksgiving, we get this knock on the door. Now, we lived in a flat in San Francisco. So it was 2 flights of stairs down to the front door and a large flight from the front door down to the street. We were upstairs. We get the knock on the door and the doorbell. We run downstairs, and there's a Boy Scout leader. Hold on one moment. Excuse me.
Sure.
So it's this Boy Scout leader holding this big box and about 4 or 5 Boy Scouts with boxes. And I'm like, what the heck? And he says, hi, we're from the Boy Scout, blah, 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 and we're here to offer you food for Thanksgiving. And we were so hungry all the time. I ran upstairs and said, Mom, because my mom was always in bed. Mom, there's these guys in the Boy Scouts, and they're offering us, Thanksgiving, food for Thanksgiving. And she said, it's for Thanksgiving? I said, well, yeah, that's what they said. She goes, you have to tell them that we're Jehovah's Witnesses. Thank you, but we can't accept it. So I run all the way down.
Unbelievable.
The poor guy with the big box is standing there the whole time. I said, I'm sorry. My mom said that we're Jehovah's Witnesses and we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, so we can't accept it. And he said, well, we don't care if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving. We're just trying to help people that maybe could use food. I mean, it's food. And I said, oh, okay, just a minute. And I ran back upstairs, told my mom, he said, it's okay if we don't celebrate Thanksgiving. They just want to help us out with food. And she's thinking about it. Meanwhile, the poor guys are all standing there holding this heavy. I found out later, the older man, the Boy Scout leader, 25-pound turkey in that box. I ran back. My mom said, well, as long as they understand that we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I guess it's okay. And I run over, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind, how stupid do we look? And when I said thank you, then they carried all this food. I swear to God, my brothers almost lost their mind. I mean, there were like peanut butter and Jell-O and this and that, all this stuff you can't buy anymore. But anyway, that is just
unbelievable
example of stupid.
But that goes to exactly what you just said, that quote. And I heard that quote from Christopher Hitchens. He said it a little bit different, but that goes to that. Here you have a parent. The most basic thing a parent does is to make sure their kids are fed. But no, because of the Watchtower brainwashing, you let your kids starve because you're worried about what somebody might do celebrating a pagan holiday. Forget the fact that the kid is starving. And that's just, there was an article in the newspaper today, not newspaper, but online. And I'm in the Midwest. I'm in Illinois. And there was some witness couple that flew to Chicago, and I guess this has probably been months in the making, to have a bloodless heart surgery. This was in MSN News today. And the article was fairly long for an MSN article. And just to hear the stupid reasoning about why this lady, who probably should have been dead already, quite honestly, didn't get this heart procedure done because she can't have blood because the Bible says you can't. And when you just read it, it's like it's one thing. I mean, we all know Watchtower is full of what, but it's another thing when you actually read it and see
That's why the
how
brains don't work.
yeah, but you just see how stupid the reason is.
Yes.
And this lady was willing to risk her life to have a bloodless surgery. She had to be flown here. They had to put her up somewhere. And they wrote this article, and the friends saw her off and all of this. And you're sitting there thinking, all because of some stupid policy that only Watchtower and one other religion that somebody told me, not religion, but denomination, believes in about blood. It's just so stupid when you read it.
It is stupid. You know, I mean, I never tell anybody this, but I'm just going to say it. Because of severe malnutrition for most of my life, I even had dents in the bones of my legs because I just didn't develop properly because of malnutrition. I had my first child when I was 15. I almost bled to death. And they had already been born, no blood. And I remember the doctor trying to stop up the blood, and the blood just kept coming. And I had to be in the hospital for 6 days, and they were forcing all these iron pills and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I remember a nurse telling me that she was afraid for me. She said, because when I was wheeled in to see my baby, she said, you were as white as the sheet wrapped up around you. And I'm thinking, what if the doctor hadn't been able to stop the bleeding? They were ready to let me die because they were going to be sued or something because my mom wouldn't give her parental consent for a blood transfusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about this very topic last week, this blood issue. We talked about that last week, and people called in, and I even made the statement that I know parents who were really hoping that when their kids got into that hospital and this blood issue came up, they were really hoping that the hospital staff would kick in and actually just take control of the situation and administer the blood legally and all of that, because they know that they would have listened to Watchtower more than likely felt pressured to, and they would have allowed their child to die.
I'm hearing you. I am hearing you. That's scary.
Yeah, it's scary. I'm going to go back to you, Marie, because I don't want to hog the conversation.
It's okay. We're really over time. I have to ask. Thank you so much. This has been so interesting. Rick, my brother, how are we doing on time?
Well, I'll tell you what, Anne-Marie, because there's so many people coming in, why don't we go another, say, 10 minutes, but we do have to shut it down at 7:30, yeah?
Okay, 10 minutes, my brother. Thank you so much. Anybody else like to go ahead?
This is Chuck.
Go ahead.
Anyway, there was y'all were talking. I just chimed in here about 20 minutes ago. Y'all were talking about Thanksgiving and stuff. There was a scripture, and I actually put this on my Twitter feed. There's a scripture that I never read as a witness. Never read it. I read around it, but I never read it. And when I try to quote it to you, you're going to find out why. There's a scripture in Mark chapter 7, 14, starting in 14 all the way down to 19. Jesus told the disciples, he said, don't worry about what you put in your stomach. It's the heart. It's what you put in your heart that counts. And they didn't understand that. So he had to repeat himself. And he said, what's the matter? You didn't understand what I said? Whatever you eat in your stomach doesn't matter. It goes in the sewer. What you eat, what you take into your heart is what matters.
Yeah.
What else do you need? That's what Jesus said. Don't worry about what you eat. It goes in the toilet. What else do you need? What else do you need? And whatever argument they say, I don't give a flip what the argument is now. I'm just going to look at it and say, well, you know what? They're not inspired. And I'm going to say it in a loud voice, too, where other people can hear it, if I ever get in a group. They're not inspired. They say they're not inspired. They're not infallible. And they could lie to you on stage. That's what they told you. They could be wrong. So I'll just wait and see if they get it right.
So I just went to a study a few months back, and I don't know if they changed that, but it's up to the witness if they want to get the blood transfusion. They're not going to disfellowship people for getting blood transfusions. I don't know if they recently changed that, but just so you guys know.
They're definitely changing that step by step. It was fractions, then it was this, then it was that. You know, a doctor couldn't even figure out what the policy is. The reason they change their policies is they get sued. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing that out. It is so true. You know what I just thought of while everybody's talking? To an indoctrinated program, Watchtowerite drone. If you make sense, it drives them crazy and they're going to jump on you. Even if it doesn't make any sense what they say, they will jump on you, put you down, say, you know, you're talking like an apostate, whatever. Don't make sense because they don't know how to make sense. I remember hearing one brother years ago, we don't need facts, we have the truth.
Hello. Hi, this is Linda again.
Hi, Linda.
David's right. They have changed that. They do not disfellowship anymore when someone takes a blood transfusion. And just like Borgie said, that was because of lawsuits. When people would get disfellowship if it was okay with their conscience to receive a blood transfusion. So now, as you've probably seen in the Australian Royal Commission, what happens if somebody does choose to take a blood transfusion, they call it that act in of itself disassociates them from the organ. So it's them taking themselves out of the organization rather than the organization just fellowshipping them and kicking them out. So they're doing a blame shift. It's a blame shifting. You just disassociated yourself from that act of receiving a blood transfusion.
Well, I did Borgie said one time, he said, well, if you can disfellowship yourself, can you reinstate yourself too?
That's a great question. Wow. Disassociate?
What's so funny about that? You guys have people that are killing themselves because they've been disfellowshipped, and you're laughing about it.
No, you're not kidding the joke. If you disassociate yourself from something you did, it's as if you have the power. So then we don't have power if we are disassociated. We have to wait for them to reinstate us. But in reality, the idea of us being responsible for disassociating ourselves, wouldn't it be amazing if we could just get ourselves back established? Like that's how it would work in the real world, but it doesn't. So that particular thing, that particular, act is what we're laughing at.
Can I ask you a personal question?
We're not laughing at people who commit suicide. You heard nothing of that. You heard nothing come out of our mouths about that.
Can I ask you a personal question? Do you still believe in Christ? I mean, do you follow Christ? Do you still go to church?
I do.
How was that going into another church? And was it a relief, or was it,
So, I hope you understand, sir, that we're not like laughing about people who commit suicide because they were disfellowshipped. We're laughing and kind of like at the irony of Watchtower having so much control and being so judgmental and so ready to punish people, taking away their family, their entire support system, all of their friends, and then having the balls to say that we did it to ourselves. So I was just commenting on Dick one time, bringing it up. Well,
I get it. The reason why I said that was because I would come up here and ask questions and like laugh at people and joke around, and then people were coming at me going like, that these people are killing themselves, people are doing this, their families were torn apart. I was told not to laugh at that, and I was told
we weren't laughing at that. That's what I was trying to say. We weren't laughing at that. Okay, not at all.
Making a joke of it, right?
No, and if you would listen, then you would.
So then what were you laughing at?
Listen,
go ahead. I just explained it. you know, you kind of didn't listen.
Well, no, it was a joke then. That's what I'm trying to like get at. Like,
okay, I'm not going to say
listen. I'm just trying to point out that, you know, I try to come up here. I ask questions, right? And there were certain people in the audience that give me a really hard time for asking them. When I come up and ask you guys a question, I'm not here to attack you. I'm here to be like, hey, listen, that's not true. That's not what I've seen. That's not whatever. And then you guys tell me it's like some honeymoon phase or whatever. You don't. It just seems like you guys are like talking down to me. Like I haven't experienced what you guys have experienced, and you know, I'm coming to you guys asking questions, and I just feel like, you know, it's difficult. I don't know. It's like walking on eggshells, and then not knowing exactly what you're talking about. You know, I can't ask questions. I don't know.
Well, I can understand that you don't know. I think that if you listen to the playback, excuse me, I think if you listen to the playback here, I tried to explain nobody was laughing or making fun of the poor people who suffer because of being disfellowship. We were just pointing out and kind of chuckling at the irony of being punished by people who have so much power over us in the ability to hurt us because of the shunning and everything. And then they say, well, they did it to themselves. I was just simply remembering that Dick Borghi brought out a really good point. He simply said, well, if we can disfellowship ourselves, can we reinstate ourselves? Chuckle, chuckle. Has nothing to do with
That would be like if I said like, oh, like a rapist raped himself.
Hello. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to ask this brother, and I agree with him. Not everybody has had the same experience. So I would like to ask you, what has been his experience?
My experience has been, I would say, 5 years now of studying. I haven't been studying. I'm going to be honest with you. The last time I studied was back almost a year ago. I think the last time I talked to Rick on the phone, and I ran into a brother a couple months ago, and I just wasn't interested. I mean, I've been listening to you guys talk, and you know, I don't know if you realize this, but like being able to hear this is a big, tremendous help to me. And you know, kind of the reason why I don't go back there anymore, because I see some of the things that you're talking about, and I see how dangerous it could be if you mess up, you know, and people are allowed to mess up. I just went over, I was studying John 5 with Mr. Hess, and, you know, Jesus even forgives, you know. You're dealing with human beings, and that's dangerous when they get a godlike complex, and you know you're in an organization that could possibly take your entire life and then tell you to like get lost. That's a big leap. So that's been my experience so far, just studying.
So you haven't really experienced, because you haven't been a Jehovah's Witness and you weren't born and raised.
Not baptized, no.
Yeah, so that's the reason why. So a lot of the people that are giving these experiences, they have gone through it, and it's a reality. And even though some of their experiences I did not experience either, it depends on where you were raised, what your parents were like, what your family was like, and even families are different, and also congregations are different. So some congregations are a little bit more loving, some are a little bit more understanding, others are very arrogant and very judgmental. So everybody has had a little bit different experience, but for the most part, everyone has experienced the dogmatic teachings and the hypocritical teachings and the self-righteousness of that organization, and that's a reality.
I mean, everybody.
Can I butt in?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead. Thank you, Larry.
Okay. Is this Dave? Is this David?
Yes.
that's speaking. Okay, where did you, because I'm on the JW website, under the fellowshipping, and Grounds is taking blood transfusion. Now, if in the elders book, supposedly if you take a blood transfusion and they find out that you've done that, you can be not disfellowship, but you have to be repentant. But the congregations don't know that, though. That's only in the elders book. So I'm curious where you found out that they changed it on blood transfusions. Where did you find that?
I went to a meeting one night, and they played a video. I'm trying to think. It was around the time. I'm trying to think. You guys were talking about a cover up at one of the conventions. So that's how long ago it was. And
you heard somebody say that, but you haven't.
No. I watched we watched the video.
And they said you can take blood transfusions. They said that?
Yeah, they said yes. They said it's up to the witness.
And it's on the Watchtower. It's on the JW online. On the.
It was what? I think the most recent video that they put out on blood transfusions. You could probably find it.
I don't think so. I'd be real curious though. Is there any way of proving that? Because this is new to all of us that are listening.
Go to JW.org. Go to JW.org, and I'm sure that the video's up there on blood transfusions. Probably the most recent one.
That they don't disfellowship for blood transfusions anymore, because that is absolutely huge if that's true.
Well, like I said, you know who you should call? I mean, no offense.
Yeah.
Why don't you call the headquarters up at Bethel?
I have done that. My number is blocked.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at you, but
You know why? Because I was in that religion for 50 years. I was in that religion for 50 years. And I do not go to meetings. I'm not disfellowship, but they know who I am because I have called. Because if they won't talk to anybody who is an ex-JW. So it's not going to do me any good whatsoever to call. Because they won't speak to me because I don't know.
Why don't you go on the website? Why don't you go on the website and I think you can just type it in.
Okay, I can do that.
I don't know why you're asking me, no offense, but I'm not.
Well, because you called in and you said that they changed. So,
yeah, I said I watched
I was a witness for 50 years, and most of us that are listening in have been witnesses for years.
I'm sorry that you experienced that. I don't know.
I want to say something that might save a life.
This is what I'm talking about. You're coming up here attacking me. I told you I watched the video. All right? Get off my back, lady. Go on the website.
I want to say something that might save a life.
Yeah,
okay, please. And there are a lot of new people, and we're under such a weight of rules and things that are not the U.S. law, and they're not anything Jesus said to be under. Under U.S. law, your relationship to your physician or surgical team is private to you. And if you're in a position where someone waves a paper in your face and says, sign this so you don't get a blood transfusion for you, your child, your elderly parent that you might have health power of attorney for, you ask for a meeting with the surgical team because that hospital wants you to live, and that surgical team and what you discuss is private, and it is nothing to do with any religion. And the only thing that we have to do in the United States besides that is pay our taxes, and they've got so much weight on us that we don't really know what freedom is. So know that your relationship to your attorney and your doctor is private for you.
Until you're a witness, and then they send in these men to make sure. Tell Dean I am on the website.
My dear, I was there. My dear, I was there with elders around my aged mother's bed. I know. I had the paper pushed in my face. And when I asked for a search,
to sign it at the meeting, all of us.
Well,
I'm on the website right now, David, and it says, what does the Bible say about blood transfusions? And it says, why does God command us to abstain from blood, ? can a Christian accept medical treatment? Of course you can. Why don't Jehovah's Witnesses accept blood transfusions? I'm on the website.
What's your name? Lady. Why don't you go find out the answer instead of reading that? Go ask a witness.
You told me to go to the website.
Lady. Don't talk to me like that.
Okay,
What's wrong with you?
excuse me. Okay, thank you. We've gone way over time. Rick has been
Okay,
very
Tasha, thanks for letting me talk.
I thank everyone who chimed in. All your comments are so valuable and important, but we have gone way over the time, that extra time that Rick gave us. I want to thank everyone for coming in to Six Green Saturday, Touched by the Tentacles, and how is your life different than being in the Watchtower? And we do need to go to Rick and JW.
Well, yeah, Anne Marie, I've got something to say to David too. I know he's listening in, but I want him to listen in to our newscast tonight if he can listen in to JW World News. Now, in Japan right now is investigating the witnesses big time because of children being under the subject of, they're under their parents' orders to not have a blood transfusion. And consequently, the nation of Japan is all upset with this. And they're saying that this is not right, that an organization should impose this type of restriction on a young child. That's going on right now. You can Google that in, David. So the Watchtower should come forward right away, immediately, and say, no, we don't. We have a different stance on that. But we're talking current. We're talking just this week. Japan has been investigating the witnesses. So there is a mixed message, though, David. I will say that. So sometimes what you'll hear from the witnesses is one thing, and then what you hear from non-witnesses another thing. And sometimes I know you have a hard time putting that together. Well, why they say this and I see this? Well, the witnesses are very sly. They sometimes, their narratives can be very ambiguous, and people can be confused very easily. But the current position on Jehovah's Witnesses, David, I have to tell you that they still do not allow for blood transfusions. Because if that was the case, like I say, they would be stepping in immediately in the country of Japan and saying, no, that's we've changed our position on that. But David, I've always loved to have you come in and call us and talk to us. I appreciate it, David. Thank you. All right, we are going to go to JW World News. Now that's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we talk about it every Saturday night and every other Sunday right now on the Six Screens Telenetwork. All right, we're going to end the program here, and we're going right to JW World News. So by all means, stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Thank you for